stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Barb, please do a roll call.
Mayor Steve Feldman.
Here.
Councilmember Jared Spade.
Present.
Joe Bauer.
Here.
Robert Bauer.
Here.
Chris Cordo.
Here.
So I have a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Bauer makes that motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Miller makes a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to the consent agenda, I need a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda. Do I have that?
Make a motion.
Mr. Miller makes that motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. DeMay makes a second. Any discussion? Barring any, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to meeting open to the public. Barb, do we have anything?
Liz Barrett.
Okay, great.
Good morning. Liz Fairbanks, 24360 Yukon Street, St. Francis. I just had, someone had brought it to my attention that I thought I would bring it to you all. I realized for permits and such, there's like certain garage sizes per acre or whatever, right? Someone had told me that he wanted to build like a $450,000 home, $500,000 between there. And the way that the layout was is that he wasn't able to have an attached garage. So he went to the city, this was September of last year, I believe he said it was. And he was denied permit to build a bigger garage because of certain ordinances. Okay. He wanted to go through the variance and was going to go through all that, but that can be very spendy, and that alone does not mean that it's going to go through in the first place. So basically what I'm asking you, so we don't shun any more people away, that we could go through some of our ordinances and maybe see if there's different numbers that we can go by regarding square feet, depending on how the layout of the land is and stuff like that. I realize there's got to be, I don't know what I'm looking for here, but I realize there's got to be like a maximum. But so we're not shutting any more people away. I'd like to get people to move here. So that's just something I'm asking you guys to look at, is the ordinances for.
So let me ask you, so he was building his house and he wants to do an attached garage or detached?
It was going to be a detached.
Okay, and
Because the way that the layout was, it wasn't going to be a good fit for his attached garage.
And how much land was he on?
4 acres.
So Kate, I know there's a requirement, something on size that would go for acreage on that, so what is it just by chance?
Mayor Council, I don't have the exact numbers for per acre, but it is. They are allowed a garage. They can have a detached garage or an attached. If they detach, it does go in their numbers as far as their total square footage. But a 4 acre, I think, is roughly 1,500 square, which is actually larger than what would be permitted for an attached garage. So, yeah, it would depend on each circumstance individually.
Well, and I remember I talked to a gal I used to work with that used to live here too before, and I think they moved to Princeton or Zimmerman somewhere. Kind of a similar issue where I think they had 4 or something acres, but they didn't meet the 5 acre requirement or something, and they ended up moving as well. So I don't know. I think it's not a bad thing to look into.
Right, I do understand the variance. I mean, it will cost you, and that's no guarantee you'll get the approval of the variance. But at the same time, you know, we have been cautioned by our engineering company and our planning company to be cautious about changing ordinances to fit one area or one site versus multiple sites, because you open yourself up to a can of worms, that type of thing like that. But we can look at it. I mean, this gentleman, has he come forth and has talked to the city at all? Because
He has spoke with Kate a few different times that I know of. I just said that I would bring it up in front of everybody, so it's just kind of more of an eye-opener, just so we can look. Because now he's in Isani, he's now building in Oak Grove.
Okay. All right, of course, that's all acres, lots of nest up there and all that. And 1,500 square feet is a pretty good sized building too, by the way. So we can look at it, you know, I mean, like I say, but we have to be cautious, because if we justify it for one, then we open up everybody else. just like we've had for multiple lots subdivisions.
Which is understandable, but I just, for future people, I just don't want, I don't know.
We don't want to turn
I'm not
people away.
asking for you to fix it right now, I'm just.
We don't want to turn people away.
Something to
but-
look into.
Right, we don't want to turn people away, but at the same time, we don't want to open up problems and headaches, because we have
Right.
enough of those already.
Mr. Mayor, there are two requirements for a variance. One is, it's got to be special circumstances, and then it's got to be a unique property. Well, one of those two, so if it doesn't fall within
That parameter.
one of those two things, then a variance wouldn't be
Approved.
approved.
But like I say, I don't know how much bigger he's building, 1,500, but that's a pretty good size structure. So, all right, thank you for bringing it to our attention. Okay. All right, anyone else? Brian?
No.
Okay, all right, moving on. Old business, ordinance 238, second series amending charter section 4.05 and section 7.06, second reading. Do we need to have discussion on this? We've got, this is a second reading, so open up for discussion. Okay, Jerry, I'll open the discussion starting with Jerry. You have anything new to say besides the first reading, second reading?
No, I've got nothing else to add.
Okay, Joe?
No, me either, it's just housekeeping stuff.
Okay, Rod?
I would agree, it's just a little bit of language change.
Rich?
Nothing new to add.
Okay. On that, it's an ordinance, so we need a roll call and have a motion to go to ordinance, right? So I have a motion to adopt ordinance 238, second series amending charter section 4.05, and section 7.06, second. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Merrill makes the motion. I have a second.
I'll second that motion,
Mr.
Mr.
Bates
Mayor.
makes a second. Barring any further discussion, we'll go to a roll call.
Muehlbauer,
Aye.
Feldman.
Aye.
Bauer.
Aye.
Scordo.
Aye.
Debate.
Aye.
Passes 5-0.
All right. Thank you. All right, new business, Winning with Cops program received donation.
Mayor Council, I'd like to introduce Officer Lyle Hearn. He's going to be speaking about a new outreach program in the police department called Winning with Cops. Officer Hearn has developed the program and we're looking to implement it fairly soon.
Good evening, council members, mayor. I created a program called Winning with Cops. It's designed for the benefit of developmentally challenged children and adults. The purpose of this program is to get them out into the public, get them exercising, and just socializing in general with people that share their same afflictions and are in their same community, but instead of seeing people in private or somewhere else, they're able to go out into the public and do and be a valuable member of the society instead of just living in the community and wanting to live and play in the community. The most other beneficial part, I believe, of it is the positive interaction that they would have with law enforcement. A lot of times we're seeing people on their worst days, and this is just a great opportunity for us to see them on a good day, a positive day, have a positive note, have them come away with a different feeling towards life and a different feeling towards law enforcement and the community in which they live in. Some of the ideas I had right off the bat were an open gym where we would take advantage of St. Francis High School or maybe a church that has a gym and just get them out doing basketball, set up an obstacle course, do some interaction, maybe a dance, dinners, maybe a dinner and a dance, popcorn and a movie, we could do those at different locations. Just, again, getting them out into the public, doing some bowling. I got a lot of people that are willing to give up food as donations, as time as donations, and other officers that are willing to assist in all the efforts that we can go on that. So moving forward, I would still be looking for people that would want to donate to this program and really try to benefit that type of community. Any questions?
Well, I'll start off. I think it's very commendable, and thank you, because it's, I mean, I've had disabled people in my family, so I know what it's like getting active. It's difficult. Anytime you're sick, it's getting difficult to get up and get well. So this is a good thing, not a bad thing, any stretch of imagination. So, anybody, any discussion? Joe, anybody?
No, well, I think it's a great idea. I commend you for stepping up and being assertive with it, advocating for it. I think it's a great thing. So thank you.
Anyone else?
Sounds good.
No, sounds great.
No, it's a very good idea. Thank you again for stepping forward with that.
Yeah.
Taking the initiative.
Thanks for that too.
Okay, so we need a motion on this tonight, or pass it? Okay, so do I have a motion to approve the Winning with Cops program, receive donation?
I'll make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Nathan makes the motion. I have a second.
I'll second.
Mr. Scordo makes a second. Any further discussion? Take a vote on it. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. Well, moving on to snowmobile rather, request discussion. Yeah, we'll get to that one. Okay. You want to start this? Or?
Sure. Honorable Mayor, members of the council, we received a request to allow snowmobile parking on the identified land that the county owns, and the map in your packet. I started sifting through some of the snowmobiling history here in St. Francis. That's why I included all the past documents, so you can see how it's kind of evolved over the years with the different regulations. But I think overall tonight we should just discuss whether this is something the city wants to move forward with, and if so, direct staff to start working with the county, because ultimately it is their land, and see how we could implement this type of request.
All right, I'm going to start this off here with some of the thoughts I have. I know the Snow Ghost, Jeff Weaver is a member of that, and well, Jerry, I take it. And first of all, I want to preface this by saying I'm not against snowmobiles at all, okay? But how it fits for our city is another point I want to make out. Where this area here is across, if I'm correct, is adjacent to Rusty Windmill and across the Rum River. So across the street from the park. So it's a little area that really is only accessible the way our ordinances and rules read right now for snowmobiles. It'd be accessible from the river. So it's a small area. You know, but right now we have St. Francis Forward Plan in motion for long-term development on Bridge Street, and we only have the one restaurant right there, and we have Subway. But looking in the packet here, I just pulled out a couple items here. There were some concerns back in 03 and 05 from past councils, and I'll just read some of the highlighted parts of it. Councilmember Jones, this is on April 7th of 2000. In fact, I'll go back a little earlier to February 18th of 2003. This is Councilmember Jones indicating that Chief Froh has stated they are having a lot of problems with them in town. Chief Froh stated they cannot catch them all. Councilmember Jones said he would like to ban them altogether. This is back again in February 2003. This is before we start putting some rules in. Then it moves on to where Councilmember Jones said, let's ban them altogether. Councilmember Dressen stated the snowmobiles are abusing the sidewalks and trails. Councilmember Brown said he would not disagree with banning them altogether. Then we move on to, that was just again February 18th of 2003. Then going on to March 17th of the same year, Chief Froh also had pictures of where snowmobiles had violated the signs that had been put up by the Snowmobile Association. Chief Froh stated the Snowmobile Club did a great job with the signage, but people are just not paying attention to them. Councilmember Dressen stated he is definitely in favor of the restrictions of the snowmobile in the core area of the town. Councilmember Schoer stated that he too has called the police regarding snowmobiles, and stated that he also owns one, but you have to look at what is overall best for the city. Then moving on to April 7th of 2003, Councilmember Jones stated he does have somewhat of a concern on being able to let the snowmobiles run through town if they need to get gas. Councilmember Dressen stated if you contact the police department, that was the area in town that was the problem. Councilmember Schoer stated, unfortunately, if you let them go to Casey's, they are going to do as they are doing now and not follow the trail. So my point in question is, it always takes one or two to make it bad for everybody else, and that's a sad thing. I remember when I was in the Army, one screwed up and we all had to pay for the price of that. So, but here in this situation, I'm looking, as this council and staff are working together for long-term development, St. Francis Forward Plan is important, and what we're trying to do is make the west and east side of the bridge, of the river rather, maybe more of a retail area with restaurants and walk traffic, kind of fashioned after Anoka area, and that's going to take some time to do. And again, this is a winter activity, not a summer activity, so that takes that part out as far as people sitting outside of that. But my point is, you know, we need to be careful how we dictate something for, you know, for one group versus the long-term picture of the city. So I talked to the chief today, and maybe he can, you know, bring some facts into this, but I talked to the chief about how he feels things are going. I talked to the public works director, and they said that with these rules that we have in effect, we're not having many problems with that, and that's a good thing, not a bad thing. So I'm open-minded. I even bring up one situation in one area myself anyways. There, across from Village Bank, there was a house that was demoed by county. That right where the second roundabout is on Poppy Street and Bridge Street. That to me would be a little bigger area, would not have to take the factor of coming up the river off the bank to get to that little lot. But they'd still have to walk over the bridge to get to the restaurants. The chief feels that may be a little difficult because you might have some that want to take it all the way. We don't know, we'd have to police it. Now, I don't want to put more burden on the police because we have enough on them already. There's other areas they have to focus on. So my point is, how does this fit for us? I mean, Councilmember Weaver from Anoka sent us, and again, a member of the Snowmobile Snow Ghosts, sent us some pictures, but his parking lot, or their area, is in a bigger area of a bigger city, or by, I think you told me that it was by the government center, right?
I did talk to the police chief in Anoka, and I believe the area that's designated for snowmobiles there is about, he described it as about 200 yards north of City Hall. They're able to exit the river, and then they're on a path, about a 100-yard path to this parking area. And then from there, they can walk through those.
Right, and so, you know, it's hard for me, you know, when you're comparing St. Francis with 24 square miles and 7,400 people to a city like Anoka or Coon Rapids with 60,000 people, or Blaine with the same amount of people, and a larger size city, or Andover, whatever, for what fits there may not fit here. So I'm just saying to you that, like when we discussed the chickens and the geese and the ducks and everything, we have to be more careful and prudent on how we do it so we don't open up a can of worms. And one thing I don't want to do is pass something where we actually end up having to take it back from the public, which, you know, once they get used to something, that's more difficult. So now I'm going to open it up for discussion here, of course, but I'm just saying to you, my concerns are, it's a small area. Again, you have to access from the river up a bank. It's just one restaurant that can benefit it, but I don't see anyone from the restaurant here right now. And before we go forward with it, and it's just a discussion period right now, I understand we're just discussing this tonight. But it's something we want to let the neighborhood know about, Rusty Windmill and so on and so forth. But again, just look at the broader picture. It's not a matter of just that little snowmobile thing. It's a matter of what we're going to try to do with the retail. I mean, we have other things in play here for long-term development in order to get our water rates down, which is the key, I believe, to getting the water rates down is long-term development in the city. The more residents, more users of our rates, the less the rates will be, and that's a good thing, not a bad thing. So we never want to, I guess my bottom line point is we don't want to do something, one thing, that will be a negative to the broader picture that we're having. So I'm going to open this up with Jerry, because you are involved with the snow goal. So let's hear your input.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Actually, before I was elected mayor back in 2009, snowmobiling had been outlawed in the city of St. Francis. When I became mayor, we kind of brought it back, not full scale, just kind of incrementally. There is 2 corridors that snowmobiling is allowed currently in St. Francis. One is along the corridor along 47, and the other is along the corridor coming up County Road 9. When you hit the stop sign there by where the SA gas station is at Bridge Street, County Road 9, the only option is to go east out of town. There is no snowmobiling currently permitted for our downtown area. One of the reasons why is because on Bridge Street, the bridge that's there isn't really wide enough to accommodate vehicle traffic, pedestrian traffic, and snowmobile traffic. You know, one of the 3 would have to give, and we just decided that it just wasn't feasible to allow snowmobiles down there. And I totally agree with that. You know, it does just take 1 or 2 bad apples, and next thing you know, you have a poorly painted pictures of snowmobilers. However, since 2009, everything's been going quite well. I've actually ridden the river several times, 100 times up to Anoka. And it's a great ride. It's a great way for a snowmobile to get from point A to point B, to go down to Anoka and do a little bit of shopping, sightseeing, just stop, have a Coke and a burger and stuff like that. Anoka's done a very good job with their parking area. The parking area really isn't that large. And what it is, it's basically a driveway, and there's no other place you can go. You don't have the option to drive around it and park somewhere else. Right from the river, they just have snow fence going up to a round circle corral area, and it's a snow fence going back down. And I'm not even sure if it's 100 yards long, the driveway. It's because it's just north of where the Anoka Dam was, and City Hall is there. So before you get to the thin ice, the snow goats actually rope it off, so snowmobilers, you'll have to drive through a little plastic tape barrier to actually go too far, you know. So Snow Ghost tape it off, and they put signage saying, you know, Anoka parking right here, and you pull in there and you park, shut off your snowmobile and walk up and get a Coke and a burger or something like that. And at any one time in the wintertime, you know, the food restaurant places they're full of snowmobilers down there. They really are. And in the wintertime, when people typically don't go out very often and they just kind of sit at home, it's a great way to kind of help the local businesses. This is something that we had kind of checked on in the past a little bit, and to see if Anoka County was going to be open to it. Nothing was ever really done about it. Jeff Weaver had approached us earlier this spring.
Yep.
And sent some emails, and he had said that he's been in contact with Anoka County and their Parks Department, and they are open to this. I think it'd be a great way to help supplement our businesses downtown, so village can drive up the Rum River, drive up a little driveway, you know, up the bank and park in a corral area. I don't think there would be an option to, and I don't think we would want snowmobiles to drive up and down Bridge Street. But I think have them park in a little corral area where there's, you know, it's fenced off and they can go in there. I think that would be great. I think it's kind of sad that I live in St. Francis and I can drive my snowmobile into Anoka to an establishment, but I can't drive my snowmobile into my own city to an establishment. So sometimes I think that St. Francis is antiquated that way. You know, we're out of the metro area, and people move out here because they have snowmobiles and dirt bikes and stuff. And I think part of our St. Francis Forward idea was to utilize the aspects of the Rum River. You know, beautiful fishing and kayaking and canoeing in the summertime and tubing. Well, we should also utilize the Rum River in the wintertime as well, and that could be snowmobile traffic.
Can I ask you,
Yes.
if there's, the club itself, let's say, for instance, because we always know there's one or two individuals that get carried away and screw it up for everybody else. If we were to do this type of thing and put this gated area in, besides the police having to enforce it, does the club enforce it?
No, the club can't, they can't enforce anything. During my tenure as mayor, I'm not sure what it's been lately, but I'm assuming it's going to be about the same.
You're saying more internally, like do they have a rule?
Right, I'm saying if they have a member that they know all of a sudden went out of that area and started going down Bridge Street.
Yep.
You know, or was intoxicated after coming out of the Rum River and started doing some things that weren't proper.
Most of the problem that we found in the past of people that have been abusing their snowmobile privileges hasn't been residents, because residents know that it, you know, wasn't too many times in the distant past that snowmobile's been outlawed. It's all been people that have been traveling through, and they'll cut across Mrs. Smith's hydrangeas or something. You know, they'll leave the trail and
But as
play
far as,
around.
because you have a fee zone as far as the members, you know, do they, contribute?
Yep.
So I'm saying, can you, if you found that one of your members was doing this, is there a way to bring him back into line that he understands?
Yes,
that
there
you're
is.
screwed up for all of us?
You know, expulsion from the club is always possible, but ideally, it's people in the club are probably the most responsible snowmobile drivers there are. To be honest with you, they're the ones that are actually putting up the signage. They groom the trails. If there's a problem with the trails, they're the ones that go out there and fix the trails because they don't want anybody to get hurt. So again, it's not going to be the people that are, I mean, the club is relatively small, you know, compared to however many people snowmobile. I mean, it's just a small percentage of the people. So the people that are outside of the club are the people that are really the ones that you have to worry about.
You know, and that's pretty much everything. I mean, signage, by the way, is only as good as enforcement behind it. I said that more than once on anything here. Of course, I read some of those quotes there from past councils, but also what it comes down to is if you open it up and you don't have some sort of oversight or something like that, then that a problem can happen. And of course, you know, they're going to Rum River. you know, my whole concern is again, as I've stated, again, I want to open up for more discussion, but you know, how does it fit with what we're going to be doing with our long-term plans for St. Francis Ford? And that's just on the west side of the river. And I agree with you, on the bridge, you only have sidewalks on the north side of the river. The east side, of course, has barriers, the south side rather. So you don't have that much, and I don't see the expanding that bridge for the near future, so I don't see where that's going to be good. As I mentioned to you before, that area that I was talking about where they took down that house.
Yep.
Is that a possibility or something? I mean, it's a little bigger, they'd have to walk over, but is that possible?
And, Mr. Mayor, anything's possible. The problem that I see is there's no direct access from the river. We would have to make a trail to get to it, so the trails are going to be longer. And in my experience, anytime you have a longer trail, there's just more opportunity for somebody to leave that trail. So, you know, I would be more in favor of a shorter driveway, a short trail to a corral that's fenced in with a little opening that people can walk through to go to the hardware store. That's I see that being a big benefit to more of the people on the west side of town. But as the west side of town gets built up as well, then
will the county do anything with the access off the Rum River to make that a smoother transition getting up from the river to that area?
I'm not exactly sure.
We haven't talked.
Yeah, we haven't talked to the county. I believe that they would be open to something. Another great resource is the Snowmobile Club.
Maintain it, whatever.
Yes. And they would put a sign out there when the river freezes. They would put a sign out there saying, St. Francis establishment's this way, and point you to the right direction rather than just driving all the way through St. Francis up to Isani.
Well, you're right. I mean, we did discuss it with kayaking and the water ability from the Rum River using that to say. So, like I said, I'm not against snowmobiles. I'm more so thinking long term here, but I want to make sure that we have some oversight. I don't want to burden the police on a 24/7 type of coverage on that type of thing during the winter months and stuff like that. We'll get Todd's input here in a minute. So, do you have enough that you want to say anything else?
No, I think currently right now the police department isn't overburdened with the snowmobile
Right, not now.
violations. So I think adding just a little portion, a little driveway and a corral isn't going to overload the system. Anoka hasn't had any problem with it. In fact, they've heard just the opposite. They've actually expanded their snowmobile privileges. They opened up a little spot in the back of the high school so kids can actually drive their snowmobile to school. And that's pretty darn cool. I would have loved to do that when I was a kid. Again, the Anoka High School's right off the Rum River. They're not allowing them to drive in from Andover into Anoka High School, but if you're driving down the Rum River and there's an access, you could drive right up that access and into the Anoka High School.
So basically what you're requesting is that work with county to have an access off the Rum River in and out to this site, where they park there and then access our facilities.
Yes.
And then they go back down the Rum River to
Yep.
leave the city.
Yes.
All right. And, all right, but I just want to emphasize one thing, or I think also, if it gets far enough into this process here, we need to discuss it. We need to put out notices to the rest of the businesses and the neighborhoods in the area. We have to have their input. We can't just do something without their input to it. So, anything else you want to say?
That's everything that I have, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, good. All right, Joe, your thoughts?
I think we should put a roundabout on the river. No, I think my biggest concern is, looking at Google Earth and looking at the map, I'm kind of curious where it would go, where it would be. I think I'm open to discuss anything. I'm more concerned with what the businesses and residents think, how they feel about it, especially if it's going to be right back there. I did reach out to the Rusty Windmill, and they pretty much said, if it promotes their business, they're happy about it. As far as noise and all that kind of stuff, they do hear motorcycles and whatnot from the Rum River, Rum River Inn, during the summer, so it'd be something similar in the winter. I don't see where a good place would be on the map myself, but if you want to discuss it and look into it, I don't have an issue with looking into it. and then as long as there's not extra problems for police and everybody else, you know, drinking and driving could be a concern, but not everybody that goes there is gonna go there and, do that, so. I don't know, it's hard to say, I think, but I'm open to hear anything or any ideas, but, I don't know.
Okay. Rob?
My biggest concern with it is most of the winter, I see really close to this location under the bridge is usually open water anyway. So I'm not opposed to it. I know reading through the papers that Anoka County said it's okay to drive on the ditches of county highways. We have a county highway that goes right down through the center of our town, so.
There's a ditch there though.
It's a unique situation. I kind of like the proposed routes to come through already on 47. That's going to promote some business opportunities for, county market for gas, the new Quick Trip. I'm just not, safety is number one in my eye, and I just don't see the slant of that hill and the ability to get into that corral without fishing somebody out of the Rum River in open water. So that's my biggest concern until I can see a little bit clearer where the trail is going to come up from and around. I need more information.
I happen to agree with that, as far as that access bothers me coming up that hill. But again, the county would work out something, I'm sure. But also, what you mentioned at 47 is something, because you have Mad Cities, you have McDonald's, you have Beef O'Brady's, so you have a little more, businesses there versus, but of course, we're talking about expansion on the St. Francis border, so we'll see how that
Yeah,
happens.
just a point of clarification. This is an old map, so I mean, currently there is snowmobiling along there, and County Market actually, they don't plow part of their parking lot just for snowmobiles parking. I know that we've had horrible snow conditions the last probably 3 years. Prior to that, there was a ton of snowmobiles. I mean, you could go up there and see 50 snowmobiles in that parking lot. And they would go into County Market and get, gas. Snowmobiles need 2-cycle oils, and they're buying their oil, and they're buying snacks, and they're walking over Beef O'Brady's and getting a burger. And, I know that Bob King, loved that trail going through there. So.
Rich?
Sure Jerry's done?
Come back, sir.
When we talked about St. Francis Ford and a lot of other things over the last few years, I'm a really big advocate for trying to utilize that river. We don't utilize it enough. And I'll be honest, I never thought about the winter. I always think about just the summertime. But, there's people that use that river during the wintertime. And I think we should try to tap into that. I absolutely agree with what Councilmember Bauer mentioned about the safety. I have no idea about the safety of the conditions there and, what the possibilities are for that grade. There's a lot of, the river's a wonderful asset, but it's also a hindrance. It divides our city in two. We've got the one crossing in town. You'll never get around that. You're never, ever going to want to get back to the day when snowmobiles are going to be able to go east to west across Bridge Street. That day will never come back. The city is grown. You don't expect to be able to ride your snowmobile down to the US Bank Stadium for a Vikings game. You don't do it. And, same thing here. We're never going to be able to do that. And so I don't think, doing this would be I don't think it'd ever grow into we'll let them go to Casey's and get gas. I think the focus would be capturing people that are enjoying the river. They would have a plan to, make that day of being up and down the river and get gas someplace. I don't think that would be a concern. I think I would like to see this become a possibility, if the safety issues can be addressed, we can find a good plan, the county can come up with a good plan to make that entrance up that hill work. I personally don't know. Snow fence is a great idea for that corral. You could always be a little bit flimsy in my mind. Maybe we can just rent some Jersey barriers or something. But I think you can do something to make sure that, we're not trying to make that a conduit to get into town for snowmobiles. It's just simply to allow people that are on the river to get off the river in that one location.
More
period.
like a destination.
Yes, it's a destination, it's not a way to get off the river and get to Highway 47, or get to the trails on County Road 9. There's other ways to do that up and down the river.
And that picture, by the way, from Winoka, I do like that, the fencing or whatever that they put there. I think that's much better, much more, not just flimsy, but solid.
Yep, I think that
Temporary too, I think it
Yeah.
can come down. and
Come down that, so.
But I think that would be important, but yeah, it might benefit one business. Well, that business happens to be the only one located there. For now, so I don't have any problem with that. If it could safely be done, I think it'd be a good idea.
All right, I just want to key on that too. We should move cautiously. I want to get Todd's input on this too, but move cautiously. Keying on safety is a big deal. It's a double-edged sword, because you want to give something to a group of people, but at the same time, you've got to worry about the people who screwed up for those people. So we're going to ask the people that help police it too, by the way. So there's bad eggs in everything. So we can't just condemn all groups because of a few bad eggs. Todd, give us your input from the police perspective on this.
But as you've been discussing, I think if you could keep them contained in an area without letting the bad apples go out on Bridge Street or go up, tear up Woodbury Park. If we're certain that they're going to stay confined to that area for parking, I don't see it being an issue. But I guess my main concern, if you get the bad apples and you get them out on Bridge Street or get them over in the park, that's your traffic. I think we're seeing all that now, vehicle traffic. It takes one time. That's my main concern with the subject we brought up, is just keeping them where we're supposed to be, and making it very difficult for them to not follow.
Yeah, use it more for a destination versus a staging area to go for some other place. I mean, like I say, I don't want to punish the good people for what one or two bad, but at the same time, I think we have to make it understood here that if the bad eggs take over, then it's time to say that's it, and it won't come back. So type of thing like that, maybe make that understood. Another concern I have, of course, is there's studs on the tracks, right?
Some of them.
Okay, so, because I've had some, Mike Rogers in his neighborhood has seen some of that abuse from snowmobilers in his area, like the ponds and that. So, but if we move cautiously on this, open-minded, I mean, I'm not against anything, man. Like I say, like Mr. Reebauer said about, opening your mind up and discussing all that, and the key on both Rich's and Rob's point of safety and stuff like that, because that is my only main concern on everything we do is safety first. So, is that fine with you, Todd, as far as if we work this together and discuss it in an open way, and we work on it to make sure it's a destination point, contained in that area, they come up the Rum River safely, park there, enjoy our street, our city, and then go back down that way?
Yeah, the open water could be an issue certain times of year. The hill, I don't have much to say about that. So that certainly could be a concern. I know that fluctuates from year to year, that's how much water and all that.
And I think I myself would like to see the snow goes involved in it as far as maintaining or at least some policing of it or whatever, or at least get the rules out there, because you all talk to each other anyways, I'm sure, so they'll know how we want to have it done. Again, what fits for Winoka or Blaine or Ramsey or anything like that is a different fit for here. So we have to make it work for our city, not for it's these ideas of what's good in Minneapolis, it could be good out here. Well, Minneapolis had almost 500,000 people in it, and we have 7,400. So. I'd like to say we have 24,000 square feet of 24 square miles of buildable land, but we don't. So we have to make sure everything we do is forward momentum. So, but I'm not against discussing it in a work session type of thing. We have to get to that point and let the county get there and put into it and bring it back. So direction right now is for staff to see what we should do with it. So let's, do I need to entertain a motion for being staff to direction this intelligence staff?
Could just have a direction.
Okay. Well, that's, and by the way, one thing about Todd, you did call Andover and Winoka, right? Did Andover get back to you at all?
He did give me an email, yeah, and basically it's a map of their boundaries, and they have pretty large area in Andover where they got a lot of snowmobile security, and I think it starts out about 161st south, all the way south of Walker, kind of fluctuates a little bit around 157.
Pretty rural north there.
Yeah, I mean, I understand when you buy a snowmobile and it snows, you want to use it. I understand that. And I'm not totally close to that, but at the same time, I want them to be safe, and I want them to turn up our streets, and turn up our city, and I don't want drunk and do stupid things. Anywhere that I want a four-wheeler person to do that, or an automobile person to do that, so, or a vice motorcycle, so, but once again, if we can have our kick in it too, it brings the business in the city and be safe and all that, and it's a good thing, I'm open to anything like that, so. So let's give direction to the staff to pursue it in an open way, look at it, the county to be talking about. My concern, and Richard's and Rob's and council in general, is how to get out from the river up to the area and then back down safely. And then the water, if there's open river type stuff like that, we don't need David, the emergency medical, to come out and stuff like that. So we don't want to pull people out of the river.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, that's where I would anticipate perhaps getting some information or recommendations from the Snowmobile Club and also County Parks Department, where would be a good access point to leave the river.
You can work with the Snow Ghost as far as giving some recommendations on their end.
Sure.
Okay, and then staff Joe will give us some discussion as far as county part, we'll bring that up and see how we can do it, but again, emphasize the safety getting off the river and back down. And that's a destination spot and then back out. Okay, so is everybody in agreement with that then, as far as the council? Okay. All right, so we come up with something. We'll bring it back to a later date into work session. Okay. All right, thank you very much. Todd, everybody, thank you. Let's move on to the fire department SCBA received payments.
Honorable Mayor, members of the council, we purchased brand new SCBA's with a liquor fund transfer because it was a substantially large purchase. With that, we sold the SCBA's and got about $3,300 back. And so the question is, what do we want to do with that money, those proceeds from selling the old SCBA's? I put the minutes in there from the council meeting where this was discussed. It seemed like there were a couple different ideas. So we just wanted clear direction as to where these funds should be allocated.
Okay. Well, I'll start in one sense. I've always been a firm believer, if you take something from one source, you bring it back to that same source, because it never seems to do, always, like in your budgets and stuff like that, you'll take out of one pocket, it never seems to go back the same way. But at the same time, putting that amount of money back in the liquor committee fund versus where we got it versus to another fund, sure I'll have some discussion on this and input where it could go. Can we get the $3,300 to make better benefit to us in another area? So I'm going to open that up to you, Rob, first, to see what your thought is on that.
Well, I read through the packet, and I was remembering that the SCBA's came out of the fire department until I read the packet. It actually came out of the liquor community fund. So, with that being said, I'm all for either putting it into where the staff is allocated, or into the general fund, not into the fire department fund.
You don't want to?
Nope. Okay. That's not where it came from.
Rich?
I don't know if I care where it goes. I mean, there's no sense in putting it back in a liquor fund. The liquor fund just ends up being hey, there's some funds here available, and go do something. So it's going to come out someday to go be an urgent need or something that comes up. I think I would probably just park it in the general fund unless staff knows there's something that's on the horizon and says, hey, we didn't anticipate that we need to go fix this. The bill's about $4,000 or whatever. I guess I'd probably just park in the general fund unless we know there's something on the horizon that needs to be done that we hadn't anticipated.
All right, Joe?
I would say either put it in the general fund or apply it to the capital equipment fund, given those are kind of unexpected costs sometimes. It's not a huge amount of money. To me and you it may be, but on a city level it's not a ton.
Jerry?
Really, Mr. Mayor, I don't think it really matters. I could see putting it in the general fund. One of the advantages of putting it back where it came from in the liquor store fund is to get it out of there, we would need council approval to transfer money out of it. And that just helps to, for accounting purposes, and sometimes what I always tell my kid, I said, if you have cash in your pocket, you're likely to spend that cash in your pocket.
Easily accessible.
You know, it's easily accessible, and sometimes, you know, the way resolutions come across our desk in the packet here is, well, there's money in the fund, you know, should we buy it? And oh, okay, yeah, there's money, let's do it. You know, an argument could be made if we put it back in the liquor store fund. We're not losing that money, the money's still there, it's just in a different pocket. It would be the equivalent of perhaps leaving it at home on your nightstand rather than have it in your pocket when you go to the store. You know, but you know, it's $3,300. It's not a really large amount. You know, I really have no preference. You know, doesn't matter to me.
I agree it's not a big amount. Dean, does the fire department have a place where it can use that? I'm just asking, but you know, is there something you have designed on, something you're thinking about, or some dedicated thing with this?
I don't specifically have this $3,300 earmarked for a task or a project. What I will tell you in my short time here, clearly the fire department has some needs, and nothing that we do is cheap. We are trying to be efficient and effective. So there will be some things that will come up as time goes on, as we continue to evaluate both our current capabilities and our future capabilities. So $3,300, I agree, $3,300 is $3,300. I'm not prepared to attach that to a specific item at this point. I think that's why we brought it back to the council. We want to make sure that we're being good stewards of this community and we're being good stewards of where the financing came from. And that's why it's on your table to that.
Right, of course, when you have a real leak, you'll come before the council.
Absolutely.
So, Darcy, where do you think it should go? Well, you are the finance director, and not in your pocket. Okay, so where do you think it should go?
One of my first things, I would think would be the capital fund, that, and it would just be reserved for any future purchases. That would, something comes in with the budget or whatever.
Yeah, I like that idea too, by the way, so I would agree with Mr. Muehlbauer. So if anybody has any, any disagreement with that, let me know now, but I think that's not a bad place for this general fund. I think
That's what I was saying too.
Okay, so is that direction enough for you? So the capital improvement? That would be great, thank you. Okay, super. All right, and now we're going to move on to setting up a work session for street maintenance, economic development, and city buildings. Staff would refer that this work session be held at the beginning of April sometime, as schedules permit. So everybody, if you can, just take a moment out to look at your calendars. April. Joe, do you have any idea, any dates that you, off the top of your head, that you prefer?
One option that always comes to my mind is an off Monday. That's just, kind of naturally fits into the schedule a little bit, but it's trying to be the 9th.
Because, right, the 9th, 23rd, or 30th. Okay. I will say to you that, and I can adjust it, but I did have an email sent to me from the Boy Scouts, and they want me to attend a meeting on a Monday, and I opened up those dates, 9, 23, and 30th, but Little Oxen first is adaptable. So if the council picks for a Monday, I'll do it, and I'll just work the scout around the best I can. So otherwise, Tuesdays are fine. I don't matter to me. So let's start with Rich.
I would personally vote for Monday the 9th.
Monday the 9th? Okay. Bob?
The 9th works for me. All my Monday is based on my work schedule, our 8.5-hour days, so that I could come to the meetings. That's how I did my work schedule, so most meetings are good on Mondays.
Okay, Joe?
I think the 9th will work.
Jerry?
Yeah, it looks like the 9th will work. I'm working a midnight shift, so I would start at 10:30 in the evening, so I just can't.
Stay long?
Yeah, the meeting can't go past 9 o'clock.
Okay.
You know.
Or if it does, you can excuse yourself.
Okay, perfect.
We'll catch up with you. Okay. All right, so let's make it 4/9 on a Monday. And what time, should we do it, 5:30 or 6? Which is better, Jerry, for you, because you got to get to work, so at 5:30?
5:30.
Is that okay with everybody, or no?
Yeah, it's kind of sporty, but I think I can make it work. Yeah, 5:30.
Otherwise 6, and Jerry, like I said, he has to leave early. If he leaves early, it runs long. What do you want to do?
Yeah, we can do 5:30.
Okay. All right, so we're gonna make that meeting on Monday, the 9th of April at 5:30, okay?
Bless you.
Would that be at City Hall or the community center? City Hall?
So, yeah. All right, thank you, everybody. Okay, good. Open, the next section, nothing for the public, okay? Everybody, okay? All right, so now, we're gonna move on to Public Works Monthly Report.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. In your packets tonight are our monthly Public Works reports. If you review them, you'll see that the majority of the work here is focused on our preventative maintenance. Winter usually gives us the opportunity to take some equipment out of service and empty tanks, clean them out, and then rebuild anything if we need to. So that's the big focus in this report you'll see is the preventative maintenance side of things. So with that, I'll answer any questions you might have.
Right. Well, one question I have, we are getting a lift coming up here in a training period. I talked to you earlier about that. So when will these filters, the first filter changes start on the wastewater treatment facility?
As soon as we've received our proper training on the lift, we will be utilizing.
Okay, good, good. That's super. All right. So that's your time out. So, and the training is for how long a period is that? Like a 4-hour training period or something like that?
It's a 4-hour training period.
Okay. So we'll get that. Well, let's say we get that this week. When would you schedule the training? Or shortly after, or the same week or something?
I know Parrish is working on scheduling that as soon as possible, making sure that all staff can attend that 4-hour training. It is a classroom training. They come out videos, and there's a test that we will have to pass before we receive our certification card.
So in other words, you're not going to let me drive it. I'm just teasing. Okay. All right. And then it schedules out for the filters to start the replacement.
Yep.
Okay. Good. All right. Super. Any other questions, Jerry? From
No, I've got nothing.
Okay. Joe?
I just want to know when you're going to start filming your video. But that's all.
We could probably produce some type of video. I'll wait for some warmer weather.
Rob?
The only thing I have is for our residents, looking at this report, please don't flush everything if you're on city sewer. Pulling 2 rags out of the pumps could actually cost us more money. And the other thing is, I'm still waiting on my glass of water. So let him know
The test?
whenever he wants to bring that glass of water in here and have it.
Well, you and Parrish are going to do that, right?
We're gonna drink it, yeah.
Well, we'll videotape that one. Okay, and then we'll have emergency medical right here too.
Be a challenge. Reuse. It's reuse. It's supposed to be so clean you can drink it.
Do you want to You want to explain to the public what that's about?
So they can come in.
Okay, they can come in. All right. Rich?
The only question I had, we all got our stormwater fee bills. Does Paul come forward at some point during this year and give us a status on our permit and plans and things like that for stormwater management?
Absolutely. We are in that process right now, working with our engineer, preparing the next permit again as well. The permit has expired with the state, so we have to go through the process of reapplying. We've done our part 1. We're in the process of doing part 2, but we can't submit that until the state has approved their part of that process. Then that will give us the opportunity to submit our part 2. In the meantime, we'll be working together to put together our inventory and our work tasks that we will be tracking and monitoring, putting together our public education packets. We are involved in several different organizations in Anoka County right now where we are planning on doing public education county level. So everybody is sharing the same information with their residents, and contractors are being educated in the same manner, along with staff and council, so that we know exactly what to look for when we're entering a construction site, or seeing or identifying an illicit discharge to a storm water catch basin, those type of things. But that will continue to progress here throughout the year.
All right, good. I look forward to hearing all about it. Thanks.
Say
Nice beard, by the way, but I don't know who wins if it's a contest.
Is there?
Well, if the contest is gray, yeah, it might be hands down.
I would agree.
Now, Paul, the new plow truck is working to expectations, I take it?
It is. The new truck is actually exceeding our expectations, and we are quickly realizing some of the inefficiencies in our smaller truck that we have. Still, that we continue to utilize, but the new truck is working quite well.
Yeah, we did have some good storms to show that, so that was good. Thank you, nature, Mother Nature, for that for us. Okay. All right, moving on. Thank you, Paul, for that report. Moving on to council member reports, and I'll start with Rich.
I don't have too much. Just remind the citizens. Today I had a voicemail from, I never caught their name, but it was one of those where the IRS is bringing a lawsuit against me, and there's a warrant out for my arrest. And just remind citizens to be a little wary of those types of voicemails. Me personally, I just delete them. If you're that worried about some things like that, I don't think you could probably, save the message and maybe talk to the police department. But there's a lot of scams out there. If the IRS really wants to throw you in jail, they're not going to do it with a poorly worded voicemail from someone who probably didn't grow up speaking English. I'll say it that way. So just be a little wary of those things, and it's not only just that scam. There's a lot of scams out there where people try to, your grandchild is held hostage in Honduras or something like that. But just be wary of phone calls from folks you don't know. That's all I'd have to say about that.
Is it worth reporting something like that to the police then too, by the way? Okay.
We report a few reports like that.
You should have a record and stuff like that. That's good. Anything else?
That's all I have.
Rob?
Well, I just have a few things. March 21st is the Planning Commission's meeting at 7 o'clock here. I was going to leave that for Rich, but and then March 24th is the Easter egg hunt at the community park. Starts at 10 a.m. So that's all I have.
Okay. Joe?
I don't have a ton to report. Sat with staff and talked about some things as far as, what the St. Francis Forward Plan and whatnot. Talked to Darcy about a few things, but nothing really to report. Just be safe and enjoy Easter.
Okay, Jerry?
I don't have a whole lot to report. I just wanted to share some information. City Hall does have a packet, like a PowerPoint packet, informational packet for the stormwater fee, the $60 fee. And I know it's available online, but I know there's been some scuttle on the internet about, I'm not connected to city sewer and water. How come I got to pay this fee? And I suspect that every year we'll have to remind people, go onto the city website, go into City Hall, ask them for a packet. They'll, if they don't have one available, they'll print one out for you. And basically it just highlights, what's required, one of the things people, well, how much does this permit cost? I mean, they're collecting a lot of money just for this permit, and it's not, we're not using the money to pay for the permit. The permit requires us to do certain things, so it's those things that we're required to do is what this stuff is paying for, like education and inventory of our stormwater management system and street sweeping and whatnot. So,
Need to get done.
Yeah, I encourage anybody to go up to City Hall, ask them for one of these packets. They'll get you a packet, and it's a really good packet. I mean, it's probably 8 pages of what we do, why we do it, and how we do it. And then I also want to remind everybody that this money is kept in an enterprise fund, which is a totally separate fund. It's not in a general fund, so it's not like we're collecting the $60 and then we're going to go out and buy a squad car for the police with it, or spend it on the fireworks for Pioneer Days or something. It's a separate line item in a separate account, and the only thing that that money can be used for is approved expenditures.
Stormwater related activities.
And they're specifically approved with that permit. So, that's just, I just wanted to share that information and so everybody knows where to find it.
Right, and once again, it's for, there's 264 cities that are obligated or under the state guidelines to do this. For populations of 10,000 or more, or 5,000 that discharge into an outstanding resource value water system, which is the Run River for us. So, yeah, but you're right, the PowerPoint, Joe put that together a long back when we first got this thing going, so it's out there. Is there anything else you want to say about that?
No, that's everything.
Because that leads into what I have to say here too, by the way. Is, the newsletter that we put out on a quarterly basis, every other month basis, I'm using that more to bring the public up to date on what we're doing, because I know the public doesn't get to come in here. Some don't have computers, so they're not watching online, whatever. So it allows me on my mayor's report to actually bring up what we're doing as far as community development, police, public works, whatever. I try to bring it all in on a monthly, every other month type of report, so I bring you up to date. So I always preface it by saying something nice about the weather, and then I lead into about what we're doing as far as the city, as far as our plans and stuff like that we're doing. So please, if you don't get it or somebody takes it out of your mailbox, go online. You can get it in our archives, but the newsletter is on the new website. It always has been on the old one and the new one, so it really does help you. And this, by the way, also on the website, just to let you know, I've worked with Paul and General Public Works, and as a contractor, I've learned a lot of tricks over the trades as far as what you can do to stop leaks. We just had one individual who for 3 months was paying, just her and her husband were paying $300 a month for water, which is insane. 2 people in the house. She gave me a call, we tracked it down, found out that it was her toilet leaking, a bad flapper. She's replaced it since then, and I wish she would have come forth a lot earlier than 3 months, because that's a lot of money. So we've corrected that, and just to let you also know that the city, if you call General Public Works, the city staff, they'll send somebody out to look at it, make sure it's not our equipment that's screwing up of any kind, a meter or whatever. They'll even give you some hints if they see a faucet dripping, because it's surprising how much a drip a second over 24/7 can cost you a lot of money. So, this is not by any stretch of imagination the way to reduce rates, okay? We understand that. Reducing rates will come from development and other things that we've been working on for 12 months right now, and hopefully going to get something to come to fruition here in this spring and summertime. But I can only tell you, in the meantime, you can take some of those hints that are on our website, easy to access, and just like flappers and fill valves and things that I've learned over years that are not a lot of expense, that you get them at any box store, and are easy to put in, but can save you a ton of money. And again, this is not our solution to say that's how we're going to cut rates here. That's not how it's going to happen. It's going to happen by getting a population growth here through development and spreading that debt out on a wider base. That's our key way of doing it. That's our first in order to do. So just to let you know again, the newsletters, I've heard stories that some of these newsletters are just staying in the mailboxes, end up being thrown out or whatever, they don't read them. Please read them, because it's about your city, and it gives us a chance to let you know again what's going on, and those hints on the website. The website was revamped for you, the public, to access the city and be able to find answers to your questions. That's a big thing here. So I hope you understand that, and I hope you utilize it. And again, look at the water tips. It's a simple thing like a flapper or a fill valve. You're talking under $10, but that can save you a ton of money, just a washer on an outside spigot that runs constantly, ton of money. So for 2 people spent $300, again, I wish this individual would have come sooner, but she thanked us when she fixed the problem, and ironically, it was her husband waking up one night and using the bathroom and heard the toilet running, and that's how they fixed it. But you can look at, the hints will give you the idea of looking at the water meter and seeing the dial spin, whatever. If your water meter dial is spinning and nothing's running, that you're using the washing machine or dishwasher or whatever, then you've got a leak someplace, you need to solve it. So once again, call Jen over to Public Works, and they will send someone else to see that it's not our equipment or anything like that, and then maybe we'll give you some helpful hints on how to fix it. So that is one good thing I want to mention to you. Also, as I mentioned, I actually drove over here today and saw someone actually signal in the roundabouts. I'm shocked when I ever see that, but I'm glad I see it. So signaling through the roundabouts helps those people that are hesitating to come on the roundabouts because they don't know if you're going to go through or you're going to go around. So a little signal doesn't take much effort. Your vehicle can handle it. Please use it. A little safety is a good thing. Also, I want to mention again, as I mentioned in past meetings, Facebook. Facebook is fun. I understand that for pictures and everything like that. But please, if you have a concern, don't let it snowball on Facebook. Call staff up, come to city council meetings, discuss it with us. Let us know what your issue or concern is so that we can address it. And as I've stated before, that doesn't mean that we're going to give you the answer you want to hear, but we will do the due diligence, we will do the research on it, and we'll give you an honest answer to the best of our ability. But we can't do that if you don't let us know what the issue is. We have a lot of things we're talking about all the time that you aren't aware of that we're doing. That's one of the reasons that the newsletter is so nice to tell you what we're doing, for your benefit. But if you do that, it's like the police chief said recently at one meeting here about, when in doubt, call 911. That's a good thing, all right? Work with us to work with you to make it better for all of us. Because going on Facebook, all I see is a snowball effect of just something, starts out small, ends up to be ballooned out, and by the time we get a hold of it, it's already so overemphasized and exaggerated, it's just hard to deal with. So please, come to talk to us. We have 2 segments open in the public for meetings, for your input. Staff is there, and it will get to us. I mean, we are approachable, and as I stated in the newsletter, and I hope you've read it, we don't want to leave any question unanswered. That's a big thing. So bring it to us and let us address it, and hopefully give us a chance to correct it. One thing I want to bring up that was brought to my attention here is I talked to Lori over at the police department last week about some things here. And by the way, the last Night Unite was kind of a divided issue between the Lions Club and the Ambassador Program and the Chamber. We are going to have a committee getting together discussing how to make a Night Out to Unite is going to be united on the front and the back around too. So we're going to be united on all facets. So all these organizations, it will be in one area this time, every time, and it will be all working together separately. So we did, I thought the way it handled last time was not right for the city, and it's for the city. So we need to come together. So we are going to go again. The Chamber, Ambassador Program, Lions Club, and the Police Department, all of us working together to make it a single area and working together to make it a fun night. So that is in play there. But there was something that was brought to my attention that was on the Facebook page of the police, and I put it on our St. Francis Post page, and had 2,066 people react to it. It's 2,074 rather. So I'm going to read it to you slowly and let you see what you think about it. On March 14th, many students chose to walk out of class for 17 minutes. But these 2 students chose to hand out 17 anonymous notes and charms to honor the 17 victims of the Florida shooting. After receiving a note and charm, the school resource officer, Jody Black, did some investigating and found out that the 2 anonymous students were Brooklyn Myers and Ariana Suchi. They told Officer Black that they wanted to do something positive during the 17-minute walkout. The girls went to Joann's and bought 17 charms with their own money in honor of the 17 victims that were killed in Florida. They did not write their name on any of the notes and said they wanted it to be a random act of kindness. The St. Francis Police Department would like to thank these students for their compassion and humble acts of kindness. I read it, found it to be very enlightening, a positive thing, because in this world today you see a lot of negative, not a lot of positive. So when something comes out positive like this, I wanted to bring it to your attention, and I think it's commendable. I happen, with 5 grandkids, I like to see, young kids get involved at an early age. I think that's a good thing. I think that's the hope for the future of our world and our country too at the same end. But when people do something like this and bring a positive note out, I think it should be mentioned. So once again, I want to thank them. I want to thank Officer Black, Police Department for putting it on their page. I put it out there and I was just amazed, and I put it out there on Friday, and by yesterday I had 2,066 and just a few more today, so 2,074 it reached. It just shows you the power of the Facebook on a positive light as well as there's a negative light out there. So I think, again, this is just commendable. Like I say, whenever you get some positive news, you have to react to it and put it out there because there's so much negative going on all the time. So that's just something I want to bring to your attention. I don't think there's much else I could say. I think I've said enough. Any more business here for the city tonight? Okay, on that, if there's nothing from the council, then at 7:09, we'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you very much.